Welcome, dear viewer, to a segment I like to call Windows on Stupidity. A couple of weeks ago, the People's Voice did a very special presentation, so to say, on chemtrails. So, let's watch this trip into basically out-and-out stupidity.
Welcome back to Windows on the World. This is our first video interview from the Geoengineering Chemtrails Awareness Day in Whitehall, London, on November the 3rd.
And this is going to be so much fun. Somebody can't press a button.
Okay, Pete. So convince the sceptical public about geoengineering.
Okay, well basically the weather has been experimented with since 1928. There was a process for producing artificial fogs, a US patent, like I say, 1928.
Just because they have a patent to produce artificial fogs, is that not a, artificial smoke screen? Because, any tank in the world has that capability to produce a smoke screen, as there's such thing as a smoke grenade. So, and again, just because something has a patent doesn't mean it'll ever get made, or it has been ever made. For example, there are thousands of patents on UFOs, but has one ever been made? No.
So we're just under 90 years of weather modification experiments, and that's down on paper. These have been done. Now, through the 1950s, for example, the RAF was accused of creating the Lynmouth flood.
Really? The RAF was accused of creating the Lynmouth flood? Where's your evidence for this?
That was in 1953, as I say. And
where's your evidence for this?
12 or 13 people died.
Where's your evidence for this?
In that situation. And it's known that RAF created that flood. So
where's your evidence for this? I can keep on saying this, but again, the guy who's interviewing him should be saying this, but he's not.
I mean, that was classed again as an experimentation. What we see since 1995 in America, 1998 in Britain, is a general weather modification program.
Again, where's your evidence for this?
Do you think it was happening before 1995?
Only in the experimentation form, in that sense, or let's say in a warfare form. For example, Mussolini sprayed Ethiopia in 1936.
Again, where's your evidence for this?
As part of the Second World War build up to that, if you like. So I mean, Haile Selassie, the Emperor of Ethiopia, he reported planes going over and leaving up to 19 trails over his land.
Again, chemtrails are nothing new. They've existed since the beginning of flight, and even since the beginning, really, of rocketry. So, planes leaving contrails is nothing new.
He described in 1936 what we're talking about nowadays, exactly the same.
They're doing it to everybody now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's basically it. With regards to the weather modification, if people look at a film called Summer Rain, that was made in 1998 in Brighton, England, you can see chemtrails in that.
How do you know they're chemtrails?
So it's like, it's up to people to, when they look at information, it's don't just look at the actors, look at the skies and stuff.
That's a very interesting point. I've heard this of several people, and people really need to do that and look at films that are 10, 15 years old, and see how the skies have actually changed.
It couldn't have anything to do with the fact that, jet travel has also increased in... I'm sure it has nothing to do with that.
Because even on council documents, they're actually putting chemtrails into the photographs.
Again, where's your evidence for this? How would you know these aren't just photos that are taken and they just happen to have a contrail in, which is what they are?
So people get used to it.
All sorts of companies do it nowadays, And the thing is, like you say...
all sorts of companies? Which companies?
Old family photographs, anything like that.
Really? So people are doctoring their old family photographs to put chemtrails in?
Really, you look for the 1970s, there's a lot of disinformation out there.
This is a perfect argument, because any time you bring up any form of science, or basically any form of logic, like the fact that, you know, jet travel has only basically increased as the years have gone on, and as such, you know, contrails have become more and more common. You know, this, oh well, that's just disinformation.
Especially about persistent contrail. 20-year-olds might not know any difference, but the people who are older, let's say 35 or older, they are going to know that there's...
Yes, of course they are, because what have I been saying? Jet travel has become more and more popular. There are more and more jets than there were back, 30 or 40 years ago, and people are, travelling by plane a lot more than they were back then. This is just obvious, and yet, oh, it's disinformation.
It's just not normal, what we see. And again, it's the same thing. People have to just kind of remember, wake up, remember what you used to see, remember what we used to do, and stop falling for the lie that's about nowadays. Because there is a lot of information. Kids' films, they have in the backdrops...
Like what kids' films?
Kid films, they have chemtrails. It's a real deep agenda. And the thing is now as well, nowadays, the elite like to tell you what's going on via the internet and via direct sources. They can tell you through their own...
You see, if I was there, I'd have told this guy exactly how contrails are formed and why they formed, but it doesn't matter what you tell someone like him, because as far as he's concerned, it fits into his program, and any science that you tell him, well, then that's just disinformation.
Programmers, if you like. Whereas 20 or 30 years ago, that was told to you through the media. It's the only way you got that agenda, sort of thing. So now the information is out there. There's no excuses for people.
There is no excuse now. We have the power.
Anybody who falls for the stupidity of chemtrails is being stupid themselves, because they're not looking up the actual proper information on how contrails are formed and why they linger.
We do have the power indeed, and it's important to remember as well that the people in power seek total control. Now, all the time that people like us gather here, it don't matter whether you're gathering against vaccines, wars...
Vaccines, well... Sorry.
Geoengineering.
Oh God.
It doesn't matter. Whatever you're gathering and protesting against, that knocks on their door and reminds them that they do not have total control.
I think what they have to remember is they're expendable. They may have a very high salary at the moment, but that's not going to last forever. Your job isn't going to be there in 5 years' time. Maybe we're not going to be here in 5 years' time.
Yeah, it could be with what's going on in Fukushima this month. I mean, it could be highly likely, eh? But that's the situation is, and that's why we know they're just playing a game. All they need to do is last 4 years, implement whatever. They get their 100,000 a year, and they come out with it with the money. They've got their property. They're already on top. So it's like that's all they have to do, and people, all they need to do is almost blag people for 4 years. Easy.
Again, you'd have to be presenting some actual evidence. But no, everything you've just said, you've just basically brought up a list of charges and just said, well, chemtrails. And anyone who disagrees is, well, it's just disinformation.
I mean, it's just, keep the machine rolling, But again, the difference is now we're waking people up to such an extent that an event like today...
No, you're not, because the people's voice is failing terribly.
Today, whether we give out 5,000 flyers, let's say the 1,000...
that are probably in 5,000 bins.
Some people actually look into that. Then what does that snowball into? And that's what we keep having to do. On the grassroots level, go for, talk to the politicians...
And yet, if you had any proper evidence, this wouldn't be anything on a grassroots level.
Talk to journalists, everything else, do that usual stuff, but just keep talking to people and just keep waking people up to what's going on.
You were talking to a pilot earlier.
Oh, and this is my favourite part. Because basically, probably what happened is that this pilot brought up the fact he was a pilot and realised, oh God, I'm talking to a conspiracy theorist, and then probably proceeded to act very nicely while he was trying to get away, but he couldn't.
Weren't you? What was his take on it?
Okay, the pilot was a very interesting situation. Firstly, he was speaking, it's a conspiracy theory.
Which it pretty much is. again, he probably just acted nicely because, quite frankly, he just wanted to get away from you.
We corrected him with to conspiracy fact. You know, he was very distant to even admitting that he knew what it was in the sense of he saw it happening and stuff. I spoke to him about.
No, he didn't.
He was refusing to take information, but we spoke to him about the US patents from the 1920s, stuff like that. He started switching on. Spoke to him about pilots that have put videos on YouTube where you can.
Really? Like what? Again, name a video. I'm sure someone will post it saying, this is the video he was on about. But bear in mind, these, you know, chemtrail conspiracy theorists have basically gone out of their way and made up videos about this. And actually have physically put a switch saying chemtrails on dashboards.
Clearly see the air hostesses, etc., cabin crew going, oh my god, that was close.
What does that have any proofs? Them saying that it, you know, of what that how is that proof that he's a contrail?
That sort of thing. He started switching on again, and then as he walked off, he did take information off me.
That probably ended up in a bin.
He was refusing information before, but he did take information. I did approach him up the road after we'd got away from here, and I offered him.
And he was probably freaked out that you'd followed him.
To do an anonymous video with me.
He didn't want to be on camera, but you did an excellent job there, because I watched it.
Yeah, and he refused that basically. But
I'm not surprised.
at the end of it, he basically cracked from the pressure, and all he could say was, I'm scared of losing my job, I'm scared of losing my job.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did, but there's no proof, so... But bear in mind, you know, people like this have faked stuff in the past, so... As far as I'm concerned, unless that pilot's willing to come forward and say, yeah, it was me and I said that, then I'm sorry.
Defensive, blah, 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 for about 3/4 of it, but in the end, he was just, all he could say to us was, it's not worth my job, it's not worth my job.
Is it worth his health, though?
And that's the thing, I did mention that to him. I even brought up the new thing of aerotoxic syndrome, and how I'm probably telling them that that's about, you know...
You see, one of the main things about this is, if chemtrails were real, then all the pilots, ground crew, and anyone who worked at any airport would be in on it. And you're telling me that they're staying silent?
When really it's the geoengineering, etc. And, you know, he hadn't even heard of it. He clearly looked...
I'm not surprised.
Surprised, and I don't know what the hell that is that you're talking about, mate. You know...
Well, you put him into shock, and now he can start thinking about it, hopefully.
So, I think hopefully...
No, he'll probably just go home and forget about it.
Go away, you know. I mean, his partner looks very interested. The fact...
Yes, I'm sure she looked interested.
I mean, he has got a research list now. He has got information, so...
No, he probably doesn't. He's probably in a bin.
You know, hopefully it's just going to trigger it off in him. You know, maybe he'll talk to someone in his tea break about it, something like that, you know. But again, we've had Prince, the artist formerly known as Prince, spoke up...
Wow, the artist formerly known as Prince. Wow, I'm sure he's not laughed at because, you know, he believes in this ridiculous conspiracy theory.
In 2009, a couple of politicians, Sweden, Venezuela, spoke out in 2011.
And they weren't ridiculed.
And that's about where we are. You know, it's until one of these people actually gets, you know, grows a pair, for want of a better word, you know, and says like, okay, I'm going on the front of the newspapers and saying this is going on. You know, all we can do is grassroots awareness, really. And
well, I'm glad you've grown a pair, Pete. Do you want to show us your...
I've got my UK Skywatch T-shirt on.
Oh joy, UK Skywatch, where I basically, you can go on there and put anything you want, so long as it's in their remit of promoting chemtrails. Not that I've, you know, gone on there and posted fake information or anything like that.
Okay, welcome back everybody to Windows on the World on this Sunday morning. You can phone in, it's 0203 714 27.
See, I wish I'd known about this because I would have phoned in.
00. We're having a special show today which coincides with the People's Voice showing the film What in the World Are They Spraying, which deals with...
Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear.
Geoengineering of the planet. Now, next guest on the show It's Max Bliss, who's been researching geoengineering in the UK. He also does talks on geoengineering. He now listens.
That he has no relevant qualification to speak of either is, yeah, I'm sure that's important somehow.
France, where he shot this video. We're going to see this video from Max now.
Again, someone can't press a button.
My friends, this is the 27th of October 2013. Mr. Max Bliss in the southwest of France, giving you the latest geoengineering, solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol geoengineering report, weather warfare, mind control, poisoning.
Yes, because that's how far it goes, and believe it or not, we're going to take a trip even further down later in his interview. So hold on to your asses, people, because it's about to get stupid.
Of the environment, ecocide program that will give us all Alzheimer's as the aluminium oxide.
Right, aluminium was originally thought to be a chemical that causes Alzheimer's. However, continuous studies have shown that there is no link between aluminium and Alzheimer's.
Which is used in these sprays, found in excessively high amounts in rainwater analysis.
Which analysis are you talking about? Because remember, these again are the people that, when they did a theory, they botched the results to prove that chemtrails were happening, and basically, if their results were right, and if you're watching this and you live in Arizona, then according to their results, you are dead. Or you've somehow evolved to breathe in basically pure metal. So congratulations on your evolution, or your untimely death, as whatever the case may be.
Demonstrates that yes, there are particles of alkaline metals such as barium, strontium, manganese, lithium, arsenic, and
yes, and if you ever actually look up what is actually in the air, you will notice that there is a point, I think it's 0.1% of other materials in the atmosphere. Do they care about, the other percentage that the air makes up? No.
many other ingredients.
Do they also care sometimes about air pollution, and they don't account for the air pollution? Nope.
Found in rainfall that should not be there.
Video, and you're making some very strong statements there. You've been researching this for a number of years. Can you tell us how you got into this area?
The main reason I got into chemtrails, looking at geoengineering, is because I went to live in the south of France, into a region where they have a record high of number of sunshine hours, and it's a particularly beautiful area. It's very rural. There's no pollution.
Yes, south of France is close to the Mediterranean, which is closer to the equator, which is what you'd expect.
So I would call it a beautiful place to be, a pristine place. And we started to notice that the skies were littered with X's and grids and just tremendous...
These are contrails, not chemtrails, contrails. But it's pointless saying any science... trying to get any signs across to this guy, because basically he's bought into it 100%.
Visual impact of these sprays in the sky.
What year was this, Max?
This is in 2011 that I started to notice that a couple of years ago. And basically, it didn't make sense. I'm living in an area where there's no pollution, there's no reason why...
But jets still fly over that particular area. You know, the Mediterranean is a very popular tourist spot, so of course you're going to see jets flying over.
I should be seeing these trails. I've worked outside all my life, and I've always been weather dependent, and therefore I would know what the weather forecast was going to be and what might happen, because if it started raining I'd have to go home. So I would say that I had a very sort of common, familiar feel with what's going on in the sky.
And that somehow makes him an expert on contrails. That doesn't make him an expert at all unfortunately. And as I've said, he's ignoring the fact that air travel has increased over the years and continues to increase.
To see all these trails really, really caught my attention. So I decided I would try to research and try to understand what was going on, because it was not the same.
And instead of, listening to the scientists, he's bought into ridiculous conspiracy theories.
And as I delved
And he's now making money off it, might I add.
into it, I found very quickly a reference to chemtrails, and I started to look into this topic. The more and more I looked into it, I realised there was an awful lot of disinformation. There was an awful lot of
No, there was also a lot of science that you just didn't want to believe, or you were too stupid to understand it.
websites and information to confuse people. And I started to recognise that there must be something more serious. To have such a big effort to stop people finding out the truth, to have that level of disinformation, there must be something very important going on. So that really spurred me on to try to find out more information. I did understand a little bit about the woodpecker in Russia, which is an antenna array at Chernobyl, which was used. I was talked about this at a lecture when I was in the army for mind control, and so I did realise there was some connection with the atmosphere and atmospheric physics. So I started to look into this, and when you look on the information...
Yeah, does he have a relevant degree in it? No.
Which is the High Active Aurora Research Program, which is basically...
Which is shut down.
An ionospheric heater. Well, I found out that they've been using radars to heat up the atmosphere and interact with the particles in the atmosphere, the electrons, since the 50s. So, and they knew about it at the turn of the last century.
I think that's a very important point, that weather modification and this type of technology is not new, is it?
Not at all. In fact, most governments have been desperately trying to find out how to control the weather for centuries.
Okay, just pairing what his mind just said there. Trying to control the weather for centuries. This should basically just tell you the type of guy you are dealing with.
You know, it's been a very, very long-term desire to control the weather, for military aspects mostly.
Yes, military aspects mostly. It doesn't happen to, if you can control the weather, then you can bring in higher crop yields or anything like that. Military applications.
And basically, the more I delved into it, the more I realised there's a tremendous amount of information, and I wanted to find out reliable information, verifiable information.
And instead of, talking to the scientists, you've basically listened to conspiracy theorists instead.
And so really, there's a very long history of interacting with the weather for military purposes.
Well, there's a document owning the weather by 2025, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. That came out in 1996, and that goes into great detail, actually, about how they will modify and control the weather and own the weather. There's also an extension to that, which is about a total surveillance system, where these particles...
This gets hilarious now.
...that are going into the atmosphere, they're spraying, will be used as part of a huge global surveillance system, because the nanotechnology that...
Right, nanotechnology. All he has to do to prove chemtrails is go out, get an air sample, and find one of these nanotechnology spy devices. But, we're still waiting on that. I wonder why.
This is getting onto a very interesting area, which Clifford Carnicom has really done a lot of research on.
And oh yeah, if you actually go watch this guy's videos, he goes on to say that these nanoparticles will actually take over you and are used for mind control. So, just again to show you the type of person that believes in this.
And the thing is with this subject, it's vast. What we'd like to do today, I think, is just keep it fairly simple for the viewers, because I'm sure there's people out there who are well aware of what's going on with this geoengineering program.
Who are idiots.
But for those of you who aren't, we just want to introduce
who are sensible
to the subject. So if you can phone in, it's 0203 714 2700.
God, I wish I could have known about this, because I'd have phoned in.
You've done an incredible amount of research in a short time, haven't you?
Yeah, I must admit that it's taken over my life. I've taken time out of my life, and I've got a lot of
time that he could have been spent, you know, doing something else, like maybe relaxing in the south of France. But, you know, this is what happens when, you know, you let conspiracy theories take over your life.
things I would like to be getting on with. You know, I haven't just taken on an obsession or anything like this.
He has.
I literally have become aware of various levels of information that make me realise this is possibly the most important issue that most people are not talking about. And therefore, I mean, it's quite simple. When you start to publicise it, like I've done with my YouTube channel, basically...
Oh yeah, which he claims it to be an institute, which is laughable.
You will come across the point where they say these are condensation trails.
And they are.
Now, London, I grew up in Brighton. I worked in my younger years around, as a builder, around the south of England, which is underneath the air corridors, the busiest air corridors in the world, servicing London Gatwick and London Heathrow. So, in my earlier years when I was working outside...
Or maybe you just didn't pay attention to them back then.
As I said earlier, I was weather dependent. I'd always
You
been
never saw
watching the
this,
sky.
did you?
Never
That's
saw
great,
trails
Matt.
ever.
There's also, again, as we're stating the fact, that air travel has increased and is only continuing to increase.
We're going to go to our first caller now, who's called Sam.
And that ends the first segment of what I like to call Windows on Stupidity. I'll hope you join us next time, where we delve into even more ridiculous stupidity, nanotechnology, and mind control.